And without further ado, to just pepper me with questions about the D backs and their upcoming season and why they're going to be the team to beat over the next 5 years, we got Locked On Padres host Javier Reyes with us today. Javi, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing sensational. I'm doing astonishingly well, Millard. I'm happy that you asked because, you know, I mean, we love doing our crossovers. That's why we're doing another one. And I'm excited to
Yeah.
just pepper you with even more questions. You hit me with a little bit of a sneaky one. I remember you were trying to be disrespectful at one point last episode. I'm already forgetting what you were disrespectful about.
It was so
But you
long
were,
ago.
yeah, it was so long ago, right? Yeah, it was an eternity ago. But yeah, man, love talking D-backs, Padres, and again, this division is just going to be like an absolute firework of bonanza and fun. So, just really excited to talk about this stuff and talk about some D-backs questions because I think there are some players that are a little bit under the radar, aside from a Corbin Carroll. Everybody who follows prospects know about him, but I think there's some other interesting stuff over there. And of course, you also still have my arch enemy on the team, which cannot be ignored. Cannot be ignored.
Yeah,
I almost puked
you.
on the mic, though. I don't know what that was.
Like, oh, you need a bucket or
Yeah, I
something?
was like, what just happened?
He who may not be named. Yeah, just speaking of the division, how are you feeling about your chances this year to win that division? Because let me pull up, we love to shout out our sponsor at FanDuel. Dodgers minus 140 to win it,
Mm.
Padres plus 145. So it's pretty close between those two to win the division. Dodgers have lost a ton of talent this offseason. They did bring in a little talent with my guy, Freight Train, as a nice little platoon option in the outfield for them. But mostly they lost a lot of talent this offseason while the Padres were bringing in guys like Xander Bogaerts. Sneakily, I think Michael Wacha recently was a huge pickup for them because he was
Mm.
really good last year with the Red Sox. He was like
Mm.
their number 2 starter for the whole season, and he looked phenomenal, which is like crazy. So if he's like your number 4 starter on that salary and he gives you 85% of what he did with the Red Sox
Mhm.
last season, like that would be a huge steal for the San Diego Padres, excuse me. But how do you feel about your team's chances to finally dethrone the Dodgers in the division?
Hey, look. In fairness, every dynasty, every empire falls at some point. The Dodgers have won the division how many years in a row?
A
Just
lot.
by sheer average, sheer regression to the mean. Eventually, they can't win the division. So on that end, for sure. But hey, and we talked about it a little bit last episode. We'll continue in this one as well. I think the D-backs and the Giants are both going to be capable teams. This is not like the NL Central. The NL Central has the Reds and the Cubs
Trash.
and the Pirates, right? Those are three teams that the Brewers and Cardinals can just almost just rely on being like, well, we know we can beat those teams. So we're at least going to be in contention solely based off that. These teams are good in this division, so I think that could potentially hamper both teams. I think both the Dodgers and the Padres. And the other thing is this: don't tell the Snydog, don't tell Jeff Snyder of Locked On Dodgers. I don't care, man. Their ability to procure talent and revitalize like American Pickers or whatever the show is where they take some item and fully restore it. The way that they do that sometimes, there's been some Jason Hayward buzz that I'm not saying he's going to be MVP or at least like
What are we
all-star
doing?
level Jason Hayward, but like these things add up is what I'm saying. You turn Jason Hayward into a two-win player, that adds up. And then Joey Gallo, Noah Syndergaard, it makes me a little bit nervous, just a little bit that they're like, obviously losing Trey Turner's big. I get it, and they have some potential issues with their rotation. Walker Bueller, he just had Tommy John surgery, so there's not as much hype vibes for them. But I'm just saying, man, they still got Miguel Vargas can come out here. They've still got some decent farm talent that might get called up. I'm just saying, for sheer factor of them being the Dodgers, you cannot underestimate that team. And yeah, if Noah Syndergaard comes out here and has, what Johnny Cueto did last year, right? Johnny Cueto had a little bit of a bounce back, which was nice. Maybe even better. I don't know, man. It just makes me a little bit nervous, just a tiny bit. I'm not like terrified of them. They're not this like giant looming beast. I'm getting
No.
closer to the mic as I say that, but there's still a feeling like it's almost like people are a little. It's not a hot take anymore to say that the Padres might win this division. And
Mhm.
that makes me nervous. Everyone's like, I think the Padres are good. Yeah, it's honestly a little bit 50-50 at this point. And that makes me nervous. I think people are discounting the Dodgers a little bit too much. They still have Freddie, Still have Mookie. They still have, what's his name? The first baseman that looks like a troll. Max Muncy. If Muncy figures it out again, Miguel Vargas might be a super stud immediately that I think people are sleeping on. I'm a little nervous. But at the minimum, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be great for baseball to have the rivalry kind of reignited. So on that end, for sure. What do you think, though? I'm curious. What do you think? Who do you think is going to win the division?
Yeah, I talked about in the last pod about how you can have the Dodgers and not the Dodgers, the D-backs and Giants rosters lined up against each other on paper, and it's a coin toss between which roster is better. I feel the same way between these two teams with the Dodgers and Padres. I'll probably even lean toward the Padres in terms of pure talent just because of who we saw leave the Dodgers this offseason, but the Dodgers are the team where it's like they're always a move away from competing, and they're always calling up somebody who turns into a superstar. They always pick up someone off the waivers like a Trace Thompson who could go in and get hot for 30 games and smash a whole bunch of home runs, or they pull off a trade for Max Scherzer, and then it's like, oh man, we'll also take salary dump Trey Turner in that deal as well. And it's like the Dodgers somehow get so much luck when it comes from the rest of the league in terms of signing great major leaguers for probably below market value because other teams don't want to give Freddie Freeman the 6th year or whatever, or they're able to go out there and get a Trey Turner thrown into the Max Scherzer deal because who knows why Washington did a move like that, or they call up someone from their minor league system who just turns into an absolute stud because unlike the New York Yankees, the Dodgers actually know how to develop their talent. So So you always
stray for the Yankees. They caught a stray.
I mean, those Yankees players are usually good for the first couple of years, and they tail off pretty quickly. Unlike these Dodgers, like the Will Smiths of the world, who actually are superstars year in and year out. So I think there's a lot more stability and like institutional knowledge with the Dodgers and credibility as to why you're going to trust them to win that division. But I'm actually going to lean this season toward the Padres to win that division just because they got my guy X-Man. And I just think Juan Soto, like we saw with Lindor that first year with the New York Mets where he struggled a little bit and then had a big bounce back his second year. I think Juan Soto's in for a monster season. I think Tatis will probably – I mean, I don't know how he'll look because he did miss all of last season, but he's at least going to be hungry and wanting to go out there. Maybe he presses a little bit too much because of all the time he's missed, and he's going to try and redeem himself. But I like the fact that he's going to go out there and be hungry. Machado, all of a sudden, it's a contract year. He's playing for something too. So you kind of, if you want to look at the optimistic view of this Padres team, it's like a lot of your best players have something to prove, something to play for. Juan Soto, too, is trying to get a contract. So I think I would probably lean San Diego Padres when it comes to who's going to win this division.
I appreciate that, too. I appreciate that very much, man. Thank you. The D-backs, man. He said, hey, they got the X-Man. And, hey, everybody listens to my pod and follows my tweets. I'm a fan of the X-Men in general. And now that we have the X-Man in baseball, I mean, Xander's pretty vicious. I don't know. I wonder what X-Men Xander Bogaerts.
That was going to be my next question. Which one of those characters is he? I can't even think of that many off my head.
I have no idea. Because, like, his personality, he's just kind of a gamer, but he's not, like, as loud as some of the other X-Men are. So, I don't know. Like, Forge.
Who's the one X-Men? Who's the X-Men in X-Men First Class that dies in like the first 10 minutes of the film?
You talking about the Darwin, the guy who adapts to things?
Yeah, he can't adapt to one thing. It's like the funniest scene.
It's literally his ability is to adapt to things. Like, he shouldn't be able to die, and they killed him. It's like your one non-white character, too. It just gets he gets an energy blast into his mouth.
He's like, adapt to this and just murder.
Adapt to this. Jeez, that movie is so chaotic, but I still kind of like it.
I love it, actually. All those
the
new reboots, actually. The first couple are great. I like First Class. I like
First Class.
Like, don't get me on
those old X-Men movies, man. They're pretty good. I think there's some people are remembering that it's not just Disney Marvel era that made these good movies. There's been some gems in the back in the day.
Yeah, and if you want to bet on Xander Bogaerts adapting to his new situation in San Diego, then you need to head to where, Javi? Where do you need to head to?
You gotta head to FanDuel, man. Come on.
That's right. And for the YouTube audience, we got to put For the YouTube audience, we got to put the overlay on for you guys because the midway point of the NBA season is here, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. You can bet on everything from the money line to point scores and threes drained. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with same game parlays. We're not in the MLB season. It's still basketball time. So right now, all I got to bet on is my favorite team, the LA Lakers. And guess what? Every game, I'm doing my same game parlay. LeBron, 25. LeBron, 5 rebound. LeBron, 5 assists with AD, 25 and 10. Instant money in your pocket. You can go cash it right now. So don't miss a chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Now, Javi, I've really dominated the conversation with all my San Diego Padres questions. So let me be a gracious host and maybe turn the mic over to you for a little bit to see if you have any questions for me.
All right. Here we go.
All right.
Here we go.
No,
I feel like Eminem and 8 Mile. Like I got the mic. Like here we go. What can I do with this? Yeah, here we go. You have had one thing over me these past couple, at least the last year. You had one thing over me. One very important thing. And that is, you did not have the ground ball gremlin as your first baseman. You did not have the absolute bane of my existence in Eric Hosmer at first base. And last year, and they laughed. They laughed at me. I remember they laughed at me.
Who?
Christian Walker, man, is one of the more underrated players in the game right now. I'm not so sure that he will repeat, but in fairness, he's had years where he's hit for power before. It did not only materialize last year. He's on a super team-friendly contract. Won the Gold Glove last year, hit 36 home runs, which is wild. And yes, batting average wasn't high, but if you look a little bit deeper, he was smoking the ball. He was like one of the unluckiest hitters in the game in terms of just getting really bad BABIP luck. And his isolated power was almost like not close to, but he was in that like Aaron Judge tier. He was a little bit below him, obviously, but just in terms of hitting for pure power, Christian Walker was up there. And then with the defense, he was great. I want to ask you, he is an underrated player. Especially with that team-friendly contract, which is why I imagine they wanted to keep him. We talked about in the last episode that, should they have gone out to at least have an anchor, that veteran presence. So I imagine that they wanted to, have Christian Walker on the team. But do you think they traded Dalton Varsho this last offseason? They're still in rebuilding mode. Christian Walker's not like he's super young. He's not old. He's not super young, though. Should they have potentially traded him? Because I think you might have gotten a decent package. Or am I just overrating the guy? What do you think? You think that the Diamondbacks should have said, you know what? We're rebuilding. Let's at least keep this one guy. Or should they have been like, you know what? Let's blow it up because we just did Varsho. We're going full rebuild and we're going to be awesome in a few years.
If you could get a Varsho level package for Christian Walker, sure, you think about it. But when you think about the trades of the Mookie Betts and the Nolan Arenados, it's hard for me to rationalize trading away a good player like Christian Walker, who's not a superstar, and actually expect to get real value back. Because, look, I was shocked when let me not say I was shocked when the D-backs traded Dalton Varsho, because they, of course, had a logjam of outfielders, and I wasn't surprised to see Dalton Varsho move. But the fact that he was moved and got back, like, a real heralded prospect who already flashed on the major league level. Like, usually can't get a Gabriel Moreno back in a deal where you trade away a superstar player. The fact that the D-backs got someone back like that in a Varsho trade really shocked me. So I wouldn't want to also expect that if I trade away a Christian Walker, I could also get back a pretty good prospect, because more likely than not, if you trade away a Christian Walker, you're never going to get that return on investment back. And so for me, someone that's already on a team-friendly deal just exploded onto the scene with his defense and power. And the power, it's not something new, like you said. It was definitely his biggest surge of power that we've ever seen before. But if you look at those advanced hard contact stats, the exit velos and everything like that, the batted ball stats, like, he was always among the league leaders in hardest hit percentage since 2019. If you take out, I think, 2020, that's the only year where it was kind of an outlier, or maybe it was 2021, one of those 2 years.
2021 I'm looking at.
Yeah, 2021. Every other year, he's basically at the top of the leaderboard, top 5 in terms of whatever hard contact rate you want to find. So this was the first year he finally put it all together in terms of that over the fence power with the defense. And in the second half of the season, Javi, in 70 games, he had a 285 average. So he even showed you in the second half of the season, maybe he can hit for a little bit for average. And he had like 850 OPS. So Christian Walker is someone that I still think is ascending, still think is only 30 years old. And coming off the best season of his career, it's like if this guy can still give you that production for the next 3 to 4 years while you have all these young guys come up, he's the perfect glue guy. He's a perfect veteran presence. He's still good. And it's like, why not just keep him in this timeline with all the rest of the players? Because the D-backs might not be that far away from competing for something real. They could be 2 years, maybe 3 years or less away from actually just at least getting in the dance and making some noise. And trading away a guy like Christian Walker for the 25th best prospect in someone's system, I don't think that would work out, because I saw the D-backs last trade deadline or a couple trade deadlines ago trade away Eduardo Escobar, and they got back Cooper Hummel, who they just traded for Kyle Lewis. So in the vacuum, Eduardo Escobar just as good as Christian Walker, at least at the time of the deal, and you got back nothing for him. And I think in most of these deals, like the D-backs also traded away Starling Marte and got back like Caleb Smith or something. Like most of these deals where you trade away a good player, not a great player, not a superstar player, just trade him away, you're never going to get back a decent prospect. Like it's not basketball where if you actually trade someone that's like a borderline all-star, you actually get back a really good prospect or pick or whatever. You at least get equal return on your value or close to it. In baseball, I just feel like trades 90% of the time are fleeces one way or the other. You're either acquiring a superstar and giving away nothing, or you're acquiring like a good player, but you're giving up some dude that's going to turn into Fernando Tatis Jr. in the future. So I would rather stay away from trades. And if I'm in a trade, I want to be acquiring the best player and not be acquiring draft picks or prospects, because I just think that's too much of a roll of a dice. And the way you've seen prospects and the gamble on them and how often they actually materialize, just give me someone who I know is going to be good, who's not going to kill my salary or luxury tax because they don't have that in baseball, and just let me have Christian Walker and just see him crush 40 home runs in a season.
I like that you bring that up, because it's true. You either have like the trade for Trey Turner that the Dodgers did, which still gives me PTSD thinking about it, where it's like, all right, you gave up Kybert Ruiz, okay, Josiah Gray, okay, whatever, fine, but then you got him and Scherzer. I know they didn't win the World Series, but it's still like, when you look at that, you're like, all right, you got the superstars, that's pretty awesome. This has happened a bunch. Or it's the other way, where it's like you traded Glasnow and Meadows and Shane Baz for Chris Archer, who was not even. The book was out on that guy. I still don't know why they did that. Like it's true. It seems to go that way. It feels like Soto might be the first trade in a while where the prospect return, like you really did get as much as you could and it made sense. Like this super young superstar, and then you also have, Mackenzie Gore and C.J. Abrams, who have at least already appeared in baseball, right? Mackenzie Gore looked like a Rookie of the Year contender last year. He was awesome. And then, people who've been following Fangraphs, they have, what's his face?
Wood.
James Wood is like the third best prospect in baseball right now. So, like, there's guys. Robert Hassel seems to have declined a little bit in his value. So maybe the Padres did right by selling him at the right time. But just saying, they did as good as they could. You know what I mean? At least and they did offer him a contract. So I think that sometimes people make fun of the Nationals. Not to get on too much of a tangent, but considering how bad their team was, they had nothing else. You got a pretty damn good package. It has the potential to be the best package returned. And also for the Padres, be a great deal too. So I think that's what's so fun about it. But yeah, I agree, man. And Christian Walker, definitely a player, man. He's a great highlight player. Everybody, if you just want to see some dingers right now, it reminds me of Hunter Renfroe, one of his years with the Padres, where if you just look at their highlights, you're going to think they're the best player in the history of the game. Christian Walker, there are some home runs he hits where it's like Bull Durham. Like, wow, that ball really got out of here in a hurry. I mean, geez, Louise. So really looking forward to that. Next question I have for you.
I was going to say real quick, maybe teams should actually try to sell early on their prospects when it's like they're 1 or 2 years in the system. They're still in high A, but they're already ranked as like a top 3 prospect. Maybe teams should start trying to sell those guys early. Yeah, you're going to have some dudes who nip you in the butt because they actually end up materializing and being that good of a player. But so many times they're like, your prospect is in high A and they're your number one prospect for 2019. And then you come back the very next season, all of a sudden they've dropped to like number 10 in your prospect rankings, because those rankings are just so volatile. And if you want to just, I think the best test case or the best case study for trading away star players for prospects is just the Miami Marlins a few years ago when they had that outfield of Ozuna, Christian Yelich, and Giancarlo Stanton. Like, you would have thought Stan and Yelich would have got you major returns. Yelich went on to the Brewers and was like a back-to-back MVP, and Stan was already an MVP in Miami. But it was Marcell Ozuna who ended up getting the best package back, because you got back Sandy Alcantara, who was just the reigning Cy Young Award winner, and you got back our guy, Zach Gallen, in that deal as well. Think about that. You're trading away a borderline all-star, and you get back two. Like, if the Miami Marlins didn't trade away Zach Gallen, I mean, they still got back Jazz Chisholm for him. But if you had Sandy Alcantara, Zach Gallen's your two frontline starters, and all you trade away was Marcell Ozuna, who's had all these off-the-field issues, it's actually crazy that could happen in Major League Baseball.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, it shows you, like, some people make fun of the Padres, right, where Preller has had a bunch of misses, but then he's had a bunch of hits too. Obviously, everyone knows James Shields for Fernando Tatis, but then it's like Joe Musgrove, Yu Darvish, Blake Snell. And Darvish and Snell at the time, especially Snell, they gave up a huge package. Luis Patino was a highly regarded pitching prospect, super, super young, so he has time, but ends up getting really hurt, and he still hasn't been able to do too much for the Rays. And then you have Xavier Edwards, right, who they gave up for in the Jay Cronenworth trade. At the time, it was the Tommy Pham trade. So they've had plenty of wins too. It's just how many wins, which are your wins? Are they going to be the big one? And, you know, you brought up the Jets. Is that the most fair trade, like, in the last decade? Jets Chisholm for Jets. You know what I mean? Like, it's really close.
I think it is the best, like, 1-for-1 trade, because the D-backs actually have like a Cy Young Award contender. And then the Jazz, he's on the cover of MLB The Show. So it's not he's some scrub either. So it's like, I feel good about Zach Gallen potentially winning the Cy Young Award. Like, I don't think that's crazy. And it's like, you told me Jazz was going to be an all-star, have a 30-30 season, and actually live up to being on the cover. I don't think that would be insane either. The fact that they were literally just 1-for-1 trade, I think is I think
fun.
I think it was a
yeah, it just
he just powered through the yard. It's really fun. You know what, Javi? You know what you need? Cause it looks like you're a little tired. It looks like you need a boost, Javi. And if you need a boost of energy, the best way to get that is from a Built Bar. Because listen, audience, listeners, whoever is listening to this podcast, if you're looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fat and calories, and you want that little boost of energy like Javi needs right now, then you got to try a Built Bar. Because look, the holidays, they're like 2 months ago at this point, right? If you want to stay locked into the game, you got to do it yourself. You got to stay self-motivated, and it's hard. We all have sweet tooths. We all have cravings. And that's why Built Bar is fantastic, because it tricks you. You think that you're eating a candy bar when in reality, you're actually eating a protein bar. That's low in calorie, low in sugar, high in protein, high in fiber, great for a keto diet. And the thing that makes the Built Bar so tasty is that it's covered in 100% real chocolate. It's soft. It's easy to chew. And right now, you don't have to just go online to get your Built Bar. No more just built.com. You can still go there if you want. We can also just go to your nearest Walmart or Sam's Club. So right now, if you're close to Sam's Club, run in, grab a 13-bar box of our hit flavors, brownie batter, or churro, and guess what? You can thank me later. All right, back here with Javier Reyes. We're goofing off. We're powering through a little tiredness, but we're having a great time, aren't we not, Javier? Are we not having a great time?
I think we're always having a great time, man. I mean, some of our best ideas, some of our best podcasts, I think both of us have been our crossovers, whether it be the wagers, whether it be when we did that fantasy draft for former Padres and Diamondbacks, which truly was elite, by the way. I really stand by that. That was one of the best ideas we've had. That was a lot of fun.
Did we actually do it, or did we just talk about it?
No, we did it. I'm like 99% sure we did it.
I have to go back and check the tapes. I know you told me before we started recording we did it, but I was like, I remember us talking about it. I actually don't remember if we actually did it.
When I think it was in 2021 that the D-backs won a few games or whatever, and you knew too. You were like, oh, I know this is going to go backwards, but I'm going to have fun while I can. And then you did another wager thing. You're like, Seth Beer or whoever it was is going to destroy you. Like, all these things, man.
I'm probably talking crazy. When the D-backs are hot, I'm talking crazy when the D-backs are looking good. So
I want it. There's too many hosts on the Locked On MLB network where you look at them and be like, I want to know what you act like when you're good. Connor Newcomb is the leading candidate for that. Shout out Locked On Orioles. That
Oh,
man hasn't had a good team for as long as I've been here. When that team is good, I don't know what it's gonna look like. I don't know what it's gonna look like. You've got the Divas over at Locked On Mariners. They act the fool. They're like, hey, this is how you manage a team. The team breaks their or postseason slump for 20 years, and then all of a sudden they know how everything is supposed to go in baseball. The Divas of Locked On, I'm telling you. But seriously, go listen to that podcast. They're great.
And hey, Locked On Rangers getting a little sensitive out here.
Oh,
Locked
On Rangers.
They get a little sensitive out here. They like one thing about the DeGrom or the health. Locked On Rangers tenses up a little bit. They don't want to talk about it.
They don't want the smoke, man.
I like how we don't say any names. We just say
we just say the name thing. Look, but back on topic. Some other Diamondbacks questions for you.
okay.
Just finally, I was also right about Ketel Marte, at least for last season. But can he bounce back? All the metrics on him are really good. Really great player to watch play. He's got the speed, got the power combination, which is really good. Can he put it together? But what are some under-the-radar guys you think for the D-backs this year? Who are some guys that might give the Padres trouble or just any team's trouble? Because everyone knows about like every player on the Padres at this point because they have the Justice League. But with the D-backs, I think everyone knows. All right,
wow,
Zach Gallen.
Got the Justice League. Okay.
Zach Gallen.
Hype yourself up. All right.
I had to sneak that in there real quick.
The Justice League over here. Okay.
Zach Gallen, Corbin Carroll are probably the guys that everybody's the most excited for. Christian Walker's very good. We talked about him. You got your Ketel Marte, but who are some other guys? And for the record, if you say Madison Bumgarner, which I know you won't, at least I hope you don't. No. You better not, because Madison Bumgarner, I still, for those who don't know, Millard had my favorite tweet of last year, and part of it is because he has a very normal looking headshot on Twitter. And I think that makes all of your tweets funnier. Like when you're being mean and it's just you smiling like that. You were like, I predicted that Madison Bumgarner would give up 4 runs in this game. And after 1 inning, he gave up 4. And you're like, all right, I got the 4 runs part. Now I just need the innings. I don't know why that was the funniest tweet I've ever seen in my life.
You need to go back and like retweet it on my account or something. I just need to see it alive one more time. But to answer your question, there's actually a lot of people that could fit this category because the D-backs are going to have a lot of under-the-rated options this year. But I think I would probably look at the rotation the most. We're looking past Zach Gallen, the future Cy Young Award winner. We're looking past Merrill Kelly, who could finish top 10 in Cy Young voting, should have last year. So maybe he should be the answer to this question. But really, I think it's going to be the potential rookies in that rotation. We already saw the Ryan Nelson and the Dre Jameson each pitch around 20 innings last year. Both of them are going to compete for that number 5 spot in the rotation. And if something happens to Madison Bumgarner, I'm not wishing injury on him, but if we could get him off this roster, release him, trade him, and then get both of them in the rotation, I'll watch out for both of those guys because both of them are mid-20s. They both have a different kind of arsenal. They both could throw high velocity heaters and have just Ryan Nelson more of a fastball heavy guy. Dre Jameson has like 5 or 6 pitches he could throw. So I like both of those guys as underrated pitchers to watch. Also, watch out for Brandon Pfaadt. Probably won't start the season on a major league level, but had one of the most impressive minor league seasons we've seen in over a decade last year because he cracked the 200 strikeout mark in the minor leagues, which I don't think has been done since Matt Moore in 2011. I expect him to be there probably by the All-Star break and at least pitch like half the season with the D-backs after the All-Star break. So I'd watch out for the young rookies in the rotation. And then the most underrated player in baseball last season will once again be the most underrated player in baseball this season, Jake the Rake McCarthy, who at one point carried this D-backs offense for like 2 months there, one of the fastest players in baseball, probably going to steal around 30 bags, had a pretty high average last year. OPS was pretty solid as well. Jake the Rake, who basically stole the job away from Alec Thomas, one of the top D-backs prospects. Right now, it seems like Jake McCarthy's locked into an outfield spot, while Alec Thomas is kind of fighting for that 4th outfield spot with like a Lourdes Gurriel and even borderline fighting for just being on the opening day roster. So Jake McCarthy, Jake the Rake, I think is, if you're looking at position players, probably the most underrated position player. I mean, I could also throw in Josh Rojas, who quietly stole like 19 bases in there as well. But I think Jake McCarthy has some real talent, and I would probably pick him to be the most underrated D-back this season.
I like those. Jake McCarthy, if you play in roto leagues, really cheap option to try and get you some steals, man. Really, if you're playing those rotisserie season-long leagues, man, woo! That's going to be one for you. Yeah, I agree, man. I think it's really fun. And there's definitely maybe some late season, right? It's
Mm.
possible maybe does Gabriel Marino make his
Oh yeah.
debut like in the second half? Probably comes up. That's a super highly regarded prospect. And again, a great return for the D-backs, all things considered, on Dalton Varsho. I'm
Yeah,
curious.
for I was
Oh,
gonna
go
say
ahead.
for Moreno, I think he's gonna be there from day one. He just won't be Carson Kelly. How it seems right now, it seems like it's gonna be 60-40. Carson Kelly is the opening day catcher, against 60% of the duties. And then by All-Star break, I think we'll see that flip where Moreno being the guy for 60% of the time, Kelly the other 40%. But expect Moreno to be a contributing factor most likely from day one.
Nice, nice, nice. That's exciting,
Nice.
man. Again,
Yeah.
it's cool that there are things to watch on the team. You know what I mean? There are a lot of hope, not a lot, but there's a decent amount of hopeless teams out there. Like
Yeah.
there's the Pirates who are
Reds,
just like, all right, I guess I can't wait for some Cabrian Hayes defensive highlights. That'll be
Oh my,
fun, I guess. And then
I
that's
love
it.
like
The Rockies, oh my god. D-backs, it's like the only thing with them is just that other teams are better right now. That seems to be kind of the only like negative. You know what I mean? It's just, well, you're in a loaded division right now. They look, if they were in like the NL Central, they could be like, you know what, let's spend some money this offseason. We could win this thing, you know, or the AL Central, whatever. Like, what's going on in the Central world, man? Let me tell you.
Yeah, if I could throw
Um,
out a sarcastic stray real quick, I love the hourly updates of Brian Reynolds' trade requests in our
oh, you're allowed to say it. So Eric Hosmer was banned on my show, as you know, and many people know. I refused to say his name for a while. That guy on the Pirates you just said has been banned on my show as well. I've had
Okay,
enough. I
okay.
cannot take the trade rumors. It is insane. This guy is being treated like when that report came out that they want a Soto like trade package. I was like, enough. Just
No more.
relegate them. They need to be relegated. I've had enough of the Pirates. Either sign him or trade him. Make up your mind. This guy isn't Mickey Mantle. Like he's a good player, a player that would probably fit on a lot of teams. But oh my god, but like you said, hourly updates. It's not. He's not even kidding. And
I
honestly, I'll probably be forced to talk about him again at some point because the engagement numbers whenever you talk about this guy is through the roof. It's this like weird cultish thing that's happened where everybody thinks Ryan Reynolds is like a superstar who's about to be traded. It's nuts. It's nuts.
Fun question for you. Which lockdown host do you think is least excited for this season? Is it like Jason Burke of
Oh.
Locked On A's? Is it Jeff of Locked On Reds? It could be Paul Holden of Locked On Rockies. Who's least excited for this season? I might say Jason Burke just because that's a minor league team that they're putting out there on the field, and they just seem hell bent on winning no games this season.
The thing is, Burke does have a little bit of a freakishness to him, where like
Mhm.
he might be the sick sociopath that enjoys watching awful baseball and being like, "Hey, we just got a home run from our first baseman today, yay!" And like Christian Pache made a cool catch today. Like I could see that, but oh man, that is such a great question, man. That
Yeah.
is fascinating. I think Rylan Stiles is a sleeper of Locked On Royals,
Okay.
just because he's sick of the Royals sometimes in general. But that team has stuff. I think it's between Paul and what's his face? Does Peter Pratt sneak in here?
He's, he's definitely on the aggro list. If you did an
Yeah.
aggro power rankings, he's probably number one with Bryce.
Oh man. Oh, Bryce. There's some downside.
Yeah.
Bryce. I know that it's not because they have a bad team, but there's a world where all this doesn't turn out well, and Jacob
Yeah.
DeGrom gets hurt. Which again, I think that one of the things I don't like is people who have been saying, "Oh, all that money for them to finish in third place," as if we know for sure what's going to happen. Like, come on, guys!
No.
Like it could still turn out well, and their farm could blow up. They have the building blocks now. They just need the tertiary pieces.
Yeah, I'm actually pro Rangers this year. I
Yeah,
don't know
me
if they'll
too.
make the playoffs, but I'm kind of in on whoever their win
I think they're
total
going to
is.
be better than the Mariners, to be honest with you. I do.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't go.
That's my
I
bold
like
prediction
that
this
take.
year.
Okay, I
That's
like
my
that
bold
take.
prediction this year.
You got to add the
But yeah.
Locked On Mariners guys after this. You
Oh,
took
I
a couple
will.
of shots over there.
I know they're divas. What do you want from me? I know they are. They're great. I love those guys so much, but they're in their diva phase. They absolutely are. I was in it too. In 2020, I was out of control.
You
Like I
need to be
just
humble.
couldn't be stopped. I was
Y'all
literally
need to be
posting
humble.
all these ridiculous videos with sunglasses and tweeting at Jeff Snyder and all that. I was ridiculous, but yeah, um, that's a great question. Yeah, I think Bryce is a sneaky stealth candidate, but I'm gonna go with Paul just because
Oh, okay.
like there's nothing there, man. Like even Chris Bryant, like that guy can't even stay healthy sometimes. So I'm gonna go with Paul. Sleeper is Bryce of Lockdown Rangers.
They got the longest tenured manager now in Major League Baseball, I think, with Bud Black. Like, what a great extension for the Colorado Rockies, keeping that thing going. Here with Javier Reyes of Locked On Padres. Javi, any last questions before we depart today?
A quick thought on Kyle Lewis. Is there anything exciting about there?
Yes.
Because you just mentioned him in trade. Is that a sleeper, or was this a guy that just did kind of great in 2020, and we're kind of extrapolating from that sample size too much?
Hey, ask as many questions as you want, Javi. I'm here for you. For me, I mean, I want to say he's a sleeper just because I don't know much about him. He's been hurt the last couple of years. He was the rookie of the year in the COVID-shortened 2020 season, so he just doesn't have a large sample size. But I have to believe this is someone that was a highly touted prospect coming up. He's someone that flashed a lot that rookie season. Now we haven't seen him since. People think his knees are absolutely done. He's basically just DH at this point, but I still think he could be a sleeper because the D-backs have been looking for a righty platoon power option. And if Kyle Lewis can get any sort of health going and get back on track, and maybe he doesn't play defense anymore, but if he just like a JD Martinez, 80% discount JD Martinez, just like an interesting power righty, like I would definitely love that, especially the fact that, like I said, all we gave up for a former rookie of the year just from 2020 is Cooper Hummel. I don't care what anyone says. That is a straight up fleece by the D-backs. Even if Kyle Lewis never plays a game in an Arizona Diamondbacks uniform, you gave up Cooper Hummel for a rookie of the year. I don't care what anyone says. Cooper Hummel's not a major leaguer. Meanwhile, Kyle Lewis can be. That's my hot take. I know in the chat people are like, oh, Cooper Hummel, he's interesting as a fourth outfield. No, he should be in AAA. He should be in AAA. Okay, no, he's a quad A player.
Millard Thomas, man. He said, no, I've had enough of this.
He's not
enough of Cooper. Enough of Cooper. The only Cooper I care about is Sly Cooper, as far as I'm concerned. You know what I'm saying? You know
back to the video games. All right.
Man. I got to sneak one in there every time we cross over. Yeah, man, that's basically about it. And I really think this is going to be a fun season. I think whenever you're ready, we could do some sort of wager. I'm excited for fantasy baseball. And I'm really genuinely happy because when your team is bad, I've seen the dark side of Millard, ladies and gentlemen. And that dark side is him being like, hey, so who's excited to talk about that trade that just happened that has nothing to do with us? like it's just, I've seen the dark side. I've seen when you just get you get a little nihilistic almost, dare I say, about the Diamondbacks. It's almost like you're like, all right, whatever. They did something.
The season's so long, and watching a team suck for so long, it's just terrible. It's like when you're just rough. Like game 50 and you're like, we got another 100 games of just nothingness and nothing to look forward to. That's why I'm like, let's shorten the MLB season because it's not fair to the Oakland A's. You have to watch that for 162 games. That's absolutely awful. Looking at our schedule right now, D-backs played the Padres. The first game of the season that they play each other is 420. We got to do some kind of 420. That's beautiful.
We'll figure out something. That is beautiful. We'll figure out something for sure. We'll figure out something.
We'll definitely cross over before that because you got to cross over the first time your teams play each other. Everyone has to do a crossover at the Locked On Network. And also, with opening day around the corner, we'll probably do some kind of round table. I'm guessing like we did last season. It just came to my head just now because we did last year. So that'd be kind of fun if we did a round table. I don't think I've talked to good old Snydog in a very long time because he never wants to hit me up, but that's okay. We won't even worry about it. Javier Reyes of Locked On Padres. Where can the listeners find you?
You can find me at Javipeno, JAVIIPENO. I do some nerdy stuff on there that isn't always baseball. I still recommend it. I think I have the best Twitter handle in the game, dare I say. At LO_Padres, though, if you only want Padres content, and Locked On Padres on YouTube. See whatever shirt I'm wearing, Tatis bobblehead, and the many times we laughed on this podcast. So if that's your thing, go check that out.
Where'd you get the bobblehead from?
I got it from the homies over at... Why am I blanking on this? But it's in the pod description. It's in the description of today's episode. So check that out. I forgot the name for a second.
Okay. And for the Padres listeners, find me on Twitter at CareerThomas24 for my personal account. Just look up Locked On Diamondbacks, both Twitter, Instagram for the podcast handle. And of course, subscribe on YouTube, Locked On Diamondbacks on there as well. D-backs, are they the sleeper of the season? Are they the team to beat in the next 5 years? Discussing it all with Javier Reyes of Locked On Padres. We are out.